Come forward. So all standing face to flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jim, while you're up there, anything on your mind?
Not really. I just came to see what was going on these days.
We have a gentleman back here. Would you, the board, come forward, you have anything to say? You're the only entertainment we have tonight.
Yeah, I looked around and I think I was just, all my people just deserted me. Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Lawrence Shulo, and I reside on Laurel Mill Way in the Barrington Farm subdivision in Roswell. And I've been in contact with your code enforcement office and your community development people for about the last 4 or 5 days, last week and part of this week. My question has come up. I'm in the process of selling my home, and my realtor, the one that's handling it for me, has had 3 signs worth $100 and some each removed. Found out later that there was something that come up here in the council meeting on the 22nd, I believe, where you folks have issued a temporary moratorium on accepting sign permits. So what is happening is your code enforcement truck is driving around and taking everything. Garage sale signs, home signs. We don't mind the junk signs, okay? But my question is, based on your literature that I copied off the website, you're basing it on the Supreme Court decision up in Gilbert, Arizona, H.R. 13-502, which is the docket number. Based on what I researched, that ended the day it was put in. The Supreme Court ruled against the town of Gilbert using the First Amendment clause stating that they cannot deny the people to put up signs. From what I gather, you folks have decided to use that to redesign the city of Roswell's sign ordinance, which I feel that there's nothing wrong in doing that. My question is, will it take 3 months for someone to come up with this? September 25th. Both 2 neighbors have sold their homes in 5 days right across the street from me. Both buyers bought the home because they saw the sign on Old Alabama, came in, got the number, and actually ended up making a contract. I have been 2 weeks now. I have no signs out there, so no one knows that my home is for sale out there. I was told today that there is now okay to put a sign up Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, as long as it's 10 feet from the curb line. So these are the things I just want to know is, how did Roswell decide that they were going to use this Supreme Court issue to redesign our code, our sign code ordinance? And why will it take that long?
Let's start with getting some, ask our development for Alice, if you'll come in.
I think I spoke with her.
First of all, try to clear up some of the background on this, and what you know about this case.
Good evening. Oh, yes.
Get back.
My understanding in this particular matter, these particular real estate signs, and we do remove signs if they're in the right-of-way. In the case of these particular real estate signs, because I did have checked with all the code enforcement officer, they were not removed by the code enforcement officers. If we remove a sign, we will pull it and we'll put it in the truck and we'll put it out here at the dumpster and keep it for a while. Now, in case of some of the garage sales, I admit that we did run into
let's just
some
deal
issues.
with this gentleman's sign. it's your understanding, or at least based upon your information, you don't believe that that our code enforcement officers removed it?
What I was told, and I was standing there when the code enforcement supervisor talked to the officers, they did not remove these particular signs.
Homeowners did not take it.
Well, I don't know who took them. And again, the first point is if it's in your yard and not in the right-of-way,
That's fine.
then we don't give them directions to remove them.
I understand.
So the right-of-way, typically, it's not so much 10 feet. The best way to judge the right-of-way is actually to get a plat and a map. But if you don't have a plat and a map, the other good way to judge the right-of-way is to look for where the telephone poles are. Because the telephone poles are going to be in the right-of-way. And if it's further back from the street, if it's closer to the street than the telephone poles, you can bet it's in the right-of-way. So to first direct the question is I cannot tell you absolutely positively that we did not remove those signs, because I'm not the people out on the street, but to our knowledge, we didn't remove those signs. And Alice, if you'll tell this gentleman what our policy is today for real estate signs that are not in the right-of-way but on a seller's property.
Unfortunate comments. I'm well aware of that. I was a registered surveyor of the state of Pennsylvania, so I know that the telephone poles indicate property line.
Right.
Both my signs were in the Barrington Farm subdivision's property, probably 4 feet beyond pole.
Well, when you say the Barrington Farm, is it common-owned property?
Yes, because according to my homeowner's president, our taxes are paying for that property,
Well,
right?
all I know is it's our practice we only remove those yard signs well, tell us what our practice is today.
Our practice is that if there's a sign that's in the right-of-way, we will remove it. In terms of the for sale signs, the little small signs that you have on individual properties, those do not require a permit, so they did not fall into the scrutiny of the moratorium.
So they haven't been affected by this latest moratorium?
No, sir. And unfortunately, or however you want to look at it, we do occasionally have people that remove signs.
Mr. Halsey, if you could respond to when we think we're going to have more direction on possibly amending our sign ordinance and perhaps lifting this moratorium.
Yes, sir. We're working on that as quickly as possible. We did not take the opportunity to change the sign ordinance. We would prefer not to change the sign ordinance at all. The Supreme Court decision forced us to have a moratorium in order to maintain what we already have, because the language of the Supreme Court says that you cannot regulate signs by content. And at first we thought we were okay because we don't do that, except that we classify signs by content. Real estate signs, directional signs, other things. The Supreme Court says that is content, and if you have that, we will strike your whole sign ordinance down. If they strike our ordinance down, or a lower court following the Supreme Court does, then we're going to have billboards. We try not to have billboards very much in the city, so in order to figure out the best way to have the best shot at maintaining what we've got, you have to put in a moratorium, treat everybody equally, and then draft the fixes that may come out. We've been studying comments in the case with other lawyers throughout the country through the International Municipal Lawyers Association on their listserv, and believe me, there's quite a debate going on about the right way to go about meeting the Supreme Court standards. The Supreme Court itself says it doesn't really know, but it doesn't want to become the Supreme Sign Court.
Any other questions?
I just appreciate what these ladies have done for me in the last 3 or 4 days, and I just needed to get something answered. So I'm accepting the fact that we can put a sign up
On your
Friday.
property.
What about on the right-of-way? Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It's right in your own paperwork.
You can't put any signs in the right-of-way.
I'm talking about in the Barrington Farm. When you enter our subdivision, the telephone pole is here. The properties, all the dirt in the interior, the island in the middle, it's back here. It's way beyond 10 feet. So cell sign there on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, that's supposed to be permissible, correct?
If it's not in the right-of-way, some islands are part of the right-of-way and some are not. We'll take a look at it.
But the poles will determine the right of way.
Well, yes, going back.
Not necessarily, it's an
Yes,
indication.
Right. Anything to the right of that? I have the layout. I actually have the plot for Barrington Farm subdivision, so I can look up the survey and see if the pins are out there.
And you may have already done this, but if you're putting it up on the subdivision common area, you probably need to talk to the president to make sure you've got his consent.
I have done that already.
Councilmember Wynn wanted to comment.
I just want to make sure I understand, because I live in Willow Springs, so we're neighbors. You're talking about on Old Alabama and Barrington Farms, right? Okay.
Lower Mill Drive for specific.
Yeah, so, and we had a problem with some signs in Willow Springs, even though they were on the other side of the telephone poles, they were still in the right of, it was still on city-owned property, and those signs could not go there. So maybe that's the problem, but don't those signs have to be permitted, though, if they're not on private property?
We generally do not require them to get a permit if they're the real estate signs and they put them up like on the Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But what you can do is to give me a call and we'll pull the plat and take a look at it for you.
So I just want to make sure that
Yes.
we're not talking about his individual home. We're talking
No.
about a common
The
area
entrance.
at Old
The
Alabama
entrance.
and Barrington Farms Drive. So
I was informed that there were to be 6 or 7 different realtors here tonight. I guess none of them showed up. They were,
You did a great job. You did a great job.
Well,
You got your point across, you did a great job.
Thank you. All right.
Anyone else wish to speak? This is yes, sir, come forward. Give us your name and address, please.
Forrest Buchanan, 225 Nesta Court, Roswell, Georgia. About a year ago, I suggested to you all that when you're heading south on Georgia 400 and you're going to get off and turn to the right on Holcomb Bridge Road, there's 3 lines of traffic. And on one line, there you can only turn right, but there's 2 lanes that you can turn left. And always, even during the middle of the day, for the people turning on right, it stretches back onto 400. And my suggestion was have that middle lane that you could turn either way. And I was just wondering where we stand on that.
Mr. Asenbrack, can you tell us the status of that project?
Hi, Forrest Buchanan.
Steve Asenbrack, how you doing?
Fine, how are you?
Good. Yes, sir. Good evening. That project is under design by the Georgia Department of Transportation right now. That's what we call the southbound off-ramp. We also have another project for the southbound on-ramp. So both of those ramps west of Georgia 400 to get off of 400 or to get onto 400 are under design right now to do exactly what you're talking about.
No, this is heading south.
Right, I understand.
Okay.
That's the southbound off-ramp. So you're getting off of Georgia 400 and onto Holcomb Bridge, right?
Right.
That ramp is owned and operated by GDOT. We had a Holcomb Bridge corridor study a couple years ago, and we identified that as one of our top projects. GDOT said, "Yep, we agree," and they took it over, and it's their project.
Taking a year?
It is taking. Oh, yes, sir.
My faith in Georgia government has been destroyed. Another question.
To their defense, the problem with GDOT has been lack of funding. There has been they're in a position not to proceed with the project until they have the money in hand.
Right.
And because of problems at the federal level.
Yes, sir. That's right.
There was lack of funding, and we hope in the future with the legislature changing the motor vehicle fuel tax, that will be relieved. But it's not just bureaucracy moving slowly. It is bureaucracy being tangled up by lack of funding at the state and federal level.
It's only a sign with an arrow one way or the other. I mean, is that really that expensive to hang a sign?
No, they're not just hanging a sign. Mr. Asenbeck, you'll tell them what they're doing.
They're going to widen the ramp. They're going to make 2 lanes that go to the right and 2 lanes that go to the left, and it's going to be a lot wider and longer. So it won't, the whole, what we call storage, all those cars that you're talking about backing up onto Georgia 400, we're going to try to get as many of those as we can off of the through general purpose lane and onto the ramp. So, yeah, I mean, there are some short-term, if it were me, we probably would go out and do some short-term fixes, but they don't want to do those and then tear them all up again. So the whole thing's going to, I mean, it's a valid project, and it's a little bit more complicated than you think, but there's engineering that's involved in that. But it's funded, and it'll happen on their timeline.
Before I die?
Yes, sir. We promise you.
Absolutely.
Unless you're taking up hang gliding,
No,
base jumping, I think you'll be fine.
Great. The other thing is, when I came out of my subdivision on Steeplechase, it took me 35 minutes to go to Spalding a week ago tomorrow. Is there any reason? I mean, are the lights mistimed? I mean, you've got a lot of...
You're going eastbound.
Yes.
To Gwinnett County.
Mhm.
That's the first I've ever heard of that. I've never heard. We have people travel that corridor all the time, and I've never had that. Probably could have been an accident.
No, it wasn't. Well, unless they had cleared.
Could have been cleared. Yeah, these accidents, the guys are pretty good about getting them gone.
Well, to further respond to your point, we're talking about Old Alabama?
No, sir.
No, this is further out.
Holcomb Ridge Road.
State Route 140.
From Steeplechase.
Okay,
Holcomb
Ridge Road.
Okay.
That's Johns Creek and Gwinnett County also.
Well, again, it's a state route, and there are a lot of projects in the queue, but the reality is, I was at the Georgia Municipal Association this weekend, and every mayor in the state of Georgia will tell you, or at least in the metro area, traffic is our biggest issue, and it polls the highest as issues. And so you have our attention, but it takes a while to make progress.
Okay. It may be a matter of national security, maybe even world security, but at your recycling center, the shredder is only open from 1 to 4. And I was just wondering why you only have that 3-hour window.
We have someone from Public Works here, Dan Skowski.
How you doing, Forrest Buchanan?
Nice to meet you.
Glad to meet you, sir.
At the present time, that is a manpower and training related issue, and we are working on trying to expand the hours. We hope to add shredding potentially on Saturday as well, and that's another day that it's not even offered generally. So hopefully some of the schedule changes that we hope to put in place will enable us to provide a broader hours.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Diamond wishes to comment.
I had a question too. Dan, you can drop it off any time, right? It's just if you want to watch it be shredded, it has to be during those hours?
Thank you. That's a good clarification. Many people do want to watch their materials being shredded, and that's one of the constraints. People who are willing to leave it there can leave it if they're comfortable doing so, and we'll shred it at other times.
My wife asked me to ask this question. Say, except for the hotel up on the hill, are there any 5-story buildings in Roswell?
Alice?
There are a few 5-story buildings in the city at the, I guess that would be the northwest quadrant. There's an office building that I believe it exceeds 5-story. At the southeast quadrant, which is the proposed Riverwalk. It's approved, I think, from up to either 8 or 9 stories.
This is current zoning,
This is current zoning.
but it hasn't been constructed.
That hasn't been constructed. The hospital is 5 stories, and all of those office buildings are 5 stories.
We've got some buildings on Mansell Road that
Yes.
Rich mentioned.
Yes. We have those, that Class A office buildings, 2 of them, and I think there's 2 additional slabs for, and those are up to 8 stories.
All right, thank you very much for your
Thank you.
attention.
Anyone else wish to come to the podium? Come forward, please, if you'll give us your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Katie Fennell, and this is my sister, Virginia Lee Fennell. And we're coming to this evening to talk to you guys about sidewalks, and specifically near the intersection of Holcomb Bridge and Nesbitt Ferry. There's a section between a veterinary clinic and a creme de la creme, and I'm not exactly sure exactly how long it is, but it's not very long. But it kind of goes off. Instead of just being overgrown with shrubs, there's a drop off, and there's a lot of traffic, footpath traffic on this side of the road, but it is extremely close to the traffic, and so it's very dangerous to walk down this side of the road without a sidewalk. It can't be just brush cut down. It really needs a sidewalk or a little wooden bridge to be constructed. We talked to different businesses in the community, and I know someone from Kroger said there have been at least 3 people they know hurt on the side of the road walking to work at Kroger. So the construction of some sort of means of transporting yourself by foot or by your cycle down that section of road would be really important for the safety of the area, but also for the environment. Reduction of vehicles would also be improved if we had a sidewalk on this area, because this is the one section that is not really walkable. So going to the grocery store, if I wanted to walk out of my neighborhood or the neighborhood behind us, I don't really feel safe walking down the side of the road, but I would love to. And talking to my neighbors, there are a lot of people who would say, oh, I'd walk to the grocery store all the time, but I can't because I'm afraid I'm going to be hit in this section of the road. And if we did reduce those trips to the grocery store, that would just be so good for the pollution in the area as well, because everybody runs to the grocery store. There's a Cleaners up the street. You run to the Cleaners. That just reduces the amount of cars, and also it would be good for the businesses, because there are a lot of young people who they don't have a car yet, or they're not old enough to drive, and they would love to run to the Chick-fil-A and just go walk with their friends, but they can't. Virginia Lee also has some points to make.
Before you proceed, what's the address? Where do you all live?
Oh, sorry. We live at 2805 Sherburne Drive. It's in Nesbitt Ferry. It's on Nesbitt Ferry Road. Yeah. What's our zip code? No.
We don't need the zip.
Okay.
That's good enough. Thank you.
Well, it would having a sidewalk would also benefit the health of the community, being able to walk or cycle. Getting exercise would be nice, and being able to walk to the fitness center. One of our neighbors actually walks to the fitness center, but he does feel very nervous because it's such a small path. It would also help our community, being able to meet people who you would not otherwise meet if you were not walking. And it would also help traffic reduction. If more people were able to walk, then they would not have to use their cars. And we went around to our, there's a shopping center near our house, and to some of our neighbors, actually all of our neighbors, and they signed our paper.
So you have a petition?
So we have a petition.
If you want to present your petition, you can bring it to Ms. Love.
Okay. We also have pictures that we took of the sidewalk if you guys want to see the small space that there is.
You know, you have done such a comprehensive presentation, I don't want you to leave anything unturned. So, can staff help her use this overhead if you've got some photographs that you want to? And Steve Asenbrack, if you'll come forward, I think we're going to need some.
You can.
Mr. Mayor, may I?
They're on the iPad.
Yes. You may ask a question.
Ladies, may I ask you a question real quick? Is
Yes,
this on the
ma'am.
west side or the east side of Nesbitt Ferry?
I think it's on the east side.
If it's on the east side of Nesbitt Ferry, that's Johns Creek. It's
No,
not
it's not
Roswell.
Johns Creek. So it must be on the west side. Sorry. Yeah,
Okay,
it's the west
if
side.
you're facing Nesbitt...
I'm
is-
facing Holcomb Bridge, and it's on my right-hand side.
Is it on your left or your right? If you're facing Nesbitt Ferry from Old Alabama, Holcomb Bridge, is it on your left or your right?
My left.
Okay, then you're in Roswell. Okay, I just wanted to double check.
Yeah,
on
I
that. Okay.
definitely made sure I was in
Okay.
Roswell. So there's the path right there. You want to go? There's a car. As soon as the shrubs go up, it's a drop-off. Those are just really tall shrubs. So you have about 1 foot from the road.
Mr. Asenbrack, are you familiar with this
I think so.
issue?
Hi,
Okay.
how you doing?
Good.
Let me ask you a question. So, where that 40, if you're looking at that 40-mile-an-hour sign,
Yeah.
is beyond that where the creme de la creme is?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, I know exactly where this is. So, thank you very much for coming. I mean, we agree with all your points. We completely agree with you, all right? Here's the issue of that particular area. It's complicated. So, this is
He
what's...
always says that.
Well, all it takes is money, Mayor. So, here's what's going on. So, there's a creek that runs underneath that road. See where the road bends? That's what we call a sag vertical curve. So underneath the road is a creek. Okay? So, usually there is what we call a culvert, a pipe that conveys the water in the creek that goes under the road. In this particular case, and I know of one other in Roswell where it's like this, it's a very interesting situation where many years ago, somebody, not sure exactly who, built a rock wall on the side of the creek and then put a concrete cap over the top of it. And that's actually what you're driving over right there. Structurally, it's very sound, but because it's not a standard size, if it was a regular pipe, then I just add a section of pipe onto it, and we would create a wider shoulder, and then the sidewalk would go over that shoulder. So the problem is we have nothing to build on right there, and we don't have anything to even attach to. So it's a big engineering challenge right there, and that's our dilemma.
Okay, I have considered this. So, my answer to that, and I don't know if it's feasible, but if you go on the Greenway, there are little paths that are just like a footbridge. So it would just be a bridge, but not necessarily a sidewalk, just because it just needs to have some sort of pathway. It doesn't have to be a sidewalk, and it might even be cheaper to use.
No,
A
the bridge
bridge.
is a great solution.
Okay.
It's just really expensive.
Oh, okay.
All right, so just give these citizens a overview. Every year we budget money for sidewalks. So this year, what is in the budget for sidewalks?
So, Mayor, we have an extra $250,000, $250,000 for sidewalks. In addition to that, we have $100,000 for connectivity, which this doesn't really
That's
apply
really not
to.
the connectivity.
Right.
So has this council decided where to spend the $250,000?
The council has given us guidance with policy, when our current policy right now is within a half a mile of a school, a half a mile of a park, or 3/4 of a mile for transit. I don't believe that this falls within, the closest school is Holcomb Bridge Middle School. And I think we're a little bit farther than a half mile, but I'll check, okay? I'll check and see if it falls within. What we do is we do an arc. We just basically do a scale drawing, and we see everything that is within a half a mile qualifies as being a higher priority in our policy, because we agree with you about everything you said about walking. So I can also tell you there are a lot of gaps like this all over the city, and there's a lot of interest in filling those gaps. So we have this many sidewalk requests, and we have this much money. So we try to spread that money and make it go as far as we can. If we were to build, say, one bridge like that, might be a whole year's, the $250,000 could be gone just like that and just building a bridge right there. So then I couldn't build sidewalks anywhere else. That's why I know the bridge is a great idea, but I would prefer to build something cheaper so I can take more money and spread it around.
All right, so ladies, you're learning the process. And I am very pleased that you've come out and expressed your opinion. So Steve is telling you there's a limited amount of money. So there are two approaches that you can take here. And you're taking the right course. You make a good point. You convince this council to either redirect the existing money or in the mid-year budget, put more money toward this project. You've started a petition. I would encourage you to continue to pursue that and perhaps get some of the neighborhoods to back you, because it's all a matter of how much, it's a matter of priorities. Okay. No one disagrees with anything you said. It's just, but this council has to say, what is our first priority and how much money do we have available, because we recognize we cannot accomplish all the projects we'd like to accomplish. So I will now open it up for other council members to make comments, but I think you're on the right track, and I would encourage you to be persistent, because that's how you get things done in politics. Councilmember Wynn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do really say kudos to you, too, to do this. I live in that area, so I know exactly what you're talking about. When I used to drive down Nesbitt Ferry, you could see people in that little area. It's not so much that walking on the side of the road is okay, but I understand that part that you're talking about. And, yeah, I would like to ask Mr. Eisenbracht to just double-check that out and see what we can do, because you all make a very good point, and really proud to see, young people coming up and, saying, hey, we'd like to see this done. So congratulations. Y'all did a really great job.
Councilmember Diamond.
Thank you, ladies. Thanks for coming. We have a list, and this should be on that list. I'm not sure where it falls on there. But among the criteria is the number of people who would use it, makes it move up a list. The number of people who ask for it can help it move up the list. And transportation's in the process of looking at the list again anyway, so maybe we can add your petition to the list of people who are interested in seeing it, and maybe just look at our use numbers and see how that falls in there, because I know they've been going back over all of them and looking at them again as we have more interest in that.
Okay.
So
So are other people asking about different areas? Like, could we know our competition of numbers?
Yes. Is your email on here somewhere?
No, but
If you will leave that with Mr. Eisenbracht, the list is public, and we can send it to you, and you can see what all is on the list and how much each project looks like it's going to cost and how that fits in.
Okay, so to reiterate, the two options that I have then are to either encourage reallocation of funding or additional funding. Is that what you said?
The mayor has his way of going at this, and that is certainly a way to go. I would say that part of what we try to do so that each of us doesn't come up here and say, I have a friend over here and I have a friend over there, we try to do it in a little more orderly fashion. And so what we do is we look at every project and we score it with a number. And that's based on how close it is to a school, a park, or some other main thoroughfare. How many people would use it, what we think the opportunities for it, does it fill a gap, which this does. All those things go into it, and that's how those numbers, and you'll see it when you see the chart. It's this big old spreadsheet of all the different things and how they were scored. So this certainly is a viable project, and it's on that list, I feel certain. It's just a matter of where it falls, and that is not always as political a decision as it is numerical.
Okay.
But we will absolutely look at it and see what we can do.
Okay.
Councilmember DiPolito.
Thank you, ladies. We absolutely agree with everything you've said, and all your points are points that we make all the time about reasons to have sidewalks. So kudos to you. I think that's very well said. Mr. Eisenbracht, is there any opportunity to work with Johns Creek along Nesbit Ferry. I know we have talked in the past about possibly having some sort of a multi-use trail along Nesbit Ferry.
Right. We're finalizing our master plan of Nesbit Ferry Corridor right now. In fact, Courtney's working on that and trying, I got briefed on that this morning. I will tell you that actually we had looked at that area in a different way. It's a complicated thing. You've got movements along Nesbit Ferry. You've got the Creme de la Creme, which is business, and then you have that Rivermont subdivision, which is right across the street. So there's a lot of turning movement conflicts right there, and we had talked about extending the lanes and changing the traffic pattern around the Creme de la Creme, and that's where this issue about the non-standard creek crossing came in, because I was going to try to widen the road right there to try to allow for better drop-offs, and there's just a lot of turning movements that go around right in that area. And so I talked to Johns Creek. I've talked to their public works director. It's a little bit expensive because of this whole pipe crossing issue, and there's not much to work with. But yes, I will be happy to re-engage with Johns Creek and see maybe if they have some money or if they have some other ideas or some other ways to. We actually kicked around several different ideas, actually moving the entrance of Rivermont, sliding. They have as gentleman mentioned about the entrance treatment. Sometimes you have these landscape medians. Rivermont has one of those landscape medians. We thought about either pulling the nose of that back or maybe even taking it out in order to change some of the traffic. So we've explored lots of variables. We didn't come up with anything substantial, but this will reinforce that conversation.
And I think the fact that it's borders two cities, maybe there's an opportunity to cost share, which helps both of us.
Sure.
Helps both of our residents, and we can share in the cost of it. I think
yes, sir. I will do
cost
that.
sharing is an important part of this as well. To the extent there are other parties that are interested in participating, that helps provide funding for it.
Councilmember Orleans.
Thank you, ladies, for coming forward and putting this all together and taking initiative. I think that's fantastic. Steve, question for you.
Yes, sir.
Is this a very, is there much in this creek as far as the water flow and so forth?
It's a large drainage basin, so we'll call it the normal flow is kind of low, but in high rain areas it can carry a lot of water, so it's a big
I was just wondering,
hydrology issue.
And you may know the area better than I do. Looking at that picture, it appeared that it was primarily just a lot of vegetation there that forced people to go right on the road to get over that creek. And I was wondering if there's a way that we can just kind of help cut through a walking path that's off the road and maybe even through the creek, so when it's not real wet.
No, it drops down. I mean, they're right. I mean, it just drops right off. This exact same situation happens right here on Pine Grove, right after you pass North Coleman. That little area, it's the same kind of stacked stone wall with a concrete cap, and there's no shoulder. That's the problem. There's just no shoulder right there. And
I thought maybe there's a way to put a temporary.
It's just not worth. I mean, it's hard to extend that concrete cap when there's no bearing. There's nothing to really build on it. But we will continue to look at options, and I think the idea of perhaps partnering with Johns Creek, because we have discussed this exact issue with them.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies. Be persistent.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Does anyone else wish to speak?